and our discussion of favorite movies continues. Number 5 on my list is Independence Day. What do you say?
I say that although I have never flown this captured spacecraft, I will expertly pilot up to the mothership where they don't have any protocols for incoming or outgoing ships or even the most basic sort of antivirus software that would block the infiltration attempts of a comparatively primitive culture. But good news. During our escape we managed to squeeze through the closing door just in time. While the highly advanced intergalactic fighter ships have no automated protection systems, so they just fly into the closed door and explode on impact in a great fiery ball that somehow burns without oxygen in the vacuum of space.
Okay, I must ask this question. You do understand this is a movie, right?
And once the virus in our little notebook, a virus we whipped up in a few hours when we were still intoxicated and walking around with a bottle of booze, falling down drunk, causes their highly advanced energy shields to drop. All it will take to destroy these gigantic, highly advanced spaceships that are the size of Earth cities or air-to-air missiles fired from aircraft flown by people like the President of the United States and a crazy crop duster drunk. That is, people who haven't logged a flight hour in years or maybe ever, you know. Just like Luke Skywalker when he gets in a fighter for the first time to attack the Death Star in Star Wars 4. When we are on our attack run we'll group really close together, wingtip to wingtip. Sure, you might say that makes it really easy for the enemy to take us out in groups, but I say we fly in formation because it looks really cool. And although we'll have to fire about a gazillion missiles, it will only take one shot into the heart of the gigantic city.
Again, this is a movie. Hasn't it never really happened? No mothership? No flying president? Sit down, I need to tell you something. That was an actor playing like he was the president. He can't even really fly a jet fighter. No computer virus, not even any real aliens. Los Angeles is still there. Houston was never nuked. And, yes, I know what's coming back at me, my 20-point list of what was wrong with Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, and I will defend myself by saying that I not only know that was a movie, it was a terrible movie, which opens itself up to ridicule, unlike an, in many ways, equally silly good movie, which opens itself up less so in my economy.
The whole thing falls apart for me, starting with the shooting of the alien through the window. So we were going to bring the president down to the lab to have a chat with the alien. You know, the really dangerous alien, a creature whose friends are trying to kill everyone on the planet, including really important people who are key to our survival. People like the president. And that creature turns out to have this really powerful psychic ability that we never even imagined. And how could that thing do his mind thingy through a glass wall? Geez, it almost kills the president. Thank God we had the foresight to install a glass wall that is strong enough to contain this murderous alien but weak enough to shatter when we shoot through it with a simple handgun. Besides, how cool is it when someone asks, is this glass bulletproof? And you get to say no sir. And open fire. Yes, we are men. It all goes to heck from there. I believe that this is the part of the movie that was created by a committee.
So how would you fix it?
If I had directed Independence Day, the battle would not have been finished in 15 minutes. No, it would have been the opening salvo in a war that lasted 30 or 40 years. We'd see the characters as old people, and Earth as a scarred battleground of battered and bruised people who will not give up ever. I am imagining parallels to Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War. Or, hey, if you have to rip off another science fiction flick, then maybe try the backstory of the future rebels in The Terminator. And the jets would not fly wing to wing, and the intergalactic fighters would absolutely destroy them. This is the same sort of result you might expect if you put a squadron of World War II era P-51 Mustangs with machine guns up against F-22 Raptors with computer-guided air-to-air missiles. And the president would not be taken into the lab to see the alien behind the sheet of glass, even though it is really cool to have the mock heroic moment and all the shooting and shattering glass.
Now we begin to zero in on the essential differences in our opinions of Independence Day, which, in at least some part, are based not on the movie but on how we view the movie. Independence Day is a love letter to everyone who loves science fiction. Evidence: these guys made Stargate. They are science fiction innovators. Science fiction lovers. Yes, they also made Godzilla, but 4 out of 6 Star Wars movies sucked, and George Lucas made Howard the Duck. Area 51. Alien Abduction. Earth vs. the Flying Saucers. War of the Worlds. This is a high-dollar B-movie, and I think they knew exactly what they were doing. Not making fun of them, honoring them. As to the series of cool-looking scenes, again, not the whole story. There were a series of cool-looking scenes, which is why the movie holds your attention. It's cool-looking. But the scenes are inseparable from the story, or I should say stories, and let me enumerate them for you.
Please do.
Story number 1. The youngish president, who was a fighter pilot, longing in some way for a clean fight after his years in the murky waters of Washington.
I get it, but would have liked it a lot more if he had insisted he was going up but was choked down by cooler heads. Maybe even showed him in the cockpit, trying to get it back and realizing that he has no business back in the saddle. Time to face the music and do his commander-in-chief thing.
Story number 2. The First Lady, strong, loving, standing by her man, but out in Los Angeles waving his flag.
I would have liked it better if we'd followed the model of the President and First Lady in the Cold War classic, Failsafe. To me, that was much more real, nothing but a photo in a newspaper, than the sappy deathbed scene in this flick.
Story number 3. Their daughter.
Again Failsafe.
Story number 4. The Crop Duster. Also a fighter pilot, although I grant you, going from an F-4 to an F-16 is a bit of a stretch. Abducted. Probed. Messed up. A stepson and 2 children of his own. Wife dead, probably. Youngest son sick. Stepson angry. I have seen the extended version, the director's cut, which is even better, because the crop duster's story is expanded and more understandable and the daughter gets a boyfriend and it all makes better sense.
Honestly, I have real problems in all movies where untrained people, or trained people long out of practice, successfully fly or drive complex machinery. Didn't like the helicopter scene in Star Trek 4. He hadn't flown one since his academy days. Presumably, he didn't spend much time in it because he would have been learning about modern technology. By the way, why didn't they just beam the sheet of plexiglass into the ship? Could that have been any more difficult than beaming up 2 whales? Loved Star Wars 4, but couldn't get past the idea that Luke would have the skills to fly the ship. I mean, he didn't even know the significance of the big red light that lit up in the Millennium Falcon. If I had made Independence Day, they'd have never got the ship through the bay doors. Probably damaged it beyond repair. Time for Plan B.
But surely now you're beginning to see why you write about movies and don't write movies. Independence Day would have been a really different film if Will Smith, after a slight backing up mishap, had cartwheeled his 50-year-old spacecraft into the side of the launch tunnel, immolating himself and Jeff Goldblum. And then the Los Angeles ship simply ambled over to Area 51 and killed everyone. I'm not sure audiences across America would have been standing up and cheering at the end of that one.
I agree with you. America would not have been cheering at the end of my version of Independence Day. No cheering at all. Audiences would have left theaters in melancholy silence or perhaps softly weeping. My ending would be more like a combination of On the Beach with Gregory Peck in 1959 and Beneath the Planet of the Apes. No more United States. Or any other country. The remaining people of planet Earth all know they are dying. Not from explosions and gunfire and a brave fight against extraterrestrial tyranny. They are dying from the radiation sickness brought on by the ceaseless mining work of the aliens. In my version of Independence Day, Will Smith kills himself early on. He is acting like a jackbutt who actually thinks he can fly alien technology.
Surely you are not serious.
He cartwheels his 50-year-old spacecraft into the side of the launch tunnel, immolating himself in Jeff Goldblum. And a few minutes later almost everyone else at Area 51 is destroyed by the Los Angeles ship. This occurs right after the highly advanced intergalactic fighters use their automated laser cannons to pick off all the F-22 Raptors without losing a single ship. Then we flash forward 30 years. The president is an old man. He survived the Area 51 attack in an underground chamber. Now he is pushed around in a worn-out wheelchair by his communications director, who is a sad shell of her former hot self. He rambles on about how he shouldn't have let that damn fool general stop him from getting in the jet. I should have been out front leading my boys on the attack run. If we just had a few more missiles we might have pulled it off.
You are a sad and bitter person.
The communications director just sadly shakes her head in mock agreement. Yes, Mr. President. The planet is just about beaten. A few scattered groups of rebel fighters keep pushing back, but of course their pitiful technology has no effect at all on the clearly superior alien forces. They are like gnats to the aliens, who do as they please. During the past 3 decades, the aliens have steadily mined the planet for its natural resources. And now it's all gone. The movie ends with the aliens pulling up stakes and moving on to their next target. In the final scene, the president is in a hospital bed, dying of old age, as a few ragged-looking rebels stand outside and cheer at the exiting spaceships. They have won their independence. And the camera pulls back to show what they had won. We see a hellish landscape of dead forests and blasted-out cities.
What about the American flag?
Note to cinematographer, be sure to have a moth-eaten flag somewhere in the background. As the final scene wipes out, perhaps the film will end with narration. In one of the countless billions of galaxies in the universe, lies a medium-sized star, and one of its satellites, a green and insignificant planet, is now dead. Now that's how you end an art film.
I'm not for your sad and bitter ending at all. I have the exact opposite take on this move. However, if I were for your ending, I would go one step further. As the camera pulled back to reveal the blighted Earth landscape and the screen fades to white, I would have the credits begin to roll, then pull back more, revealing to the audience that they are looking at an audience of the aliens who are looking at a screening of the movie Independence Day. The aliens would come to their feet, because this is exactly the kind of movie they would cheer. But as they rise and wave their hands wildly, there is no sound and that scene fades to black. These words appear: in space, no one can hear a telepath cheer.
I am afraid I cannot let you work on my version of Independence Day. No cheering, alien audience. My movie is a serious art film statement on the suicidal nature of 21st century American foreign policy. And for that reason we'll need to include a snarky swipe at Sarah Palin in Fox News. Consider the pompous speech I've prepared for the alternate reality cut of my version of Independence Day. It is called Ramadan.
This cannot be good.
Good morning. In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world. And you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind. Perhaps it's fate that today is the beginning of Ramadan, an auspicious month for the revelations of God to humankind, the time when the first verses of the Quran were revealed to Muhammad. You will once again be praying for divine guidance. Not from the everyday ills of life. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We are fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, Ramadan will no longer be known as a holy Islamic Empire holiday, but as the day the world declared in one voice: we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We are going to live on. We are going to survive. Today we celebrate our Ramadan.